is finally time to talk about Avengers Infinity War. It is the morning after the night before. I went to see the midnight premiere showing last night, and I have a lot of thoughts about the film. This will be a spoiler-free review, I guess. There's a lot of people who haven't seen it. I know people are waiting until Friday, until the weekend, so I'll post a spoiler discussion next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, to give people a chance to see it. Although I know a lot of people have seen it and maybe might want to know my thoughts on some of the things that happened, and a lot of things happened in the film, but I'll be as spoiler-free as I can possibly manage. So, Avengers Infinity War picks up right where Thor Ragnarok left off, and we follow Thanos, who's been built up now over 6 years, ever since the first Avengers movie. I remember sitting in that cinema, seeing that first post-credit scene with Thanos and thinking, huh? Well, everyone's like, oh, like grabbing their buddies and stuff, and I'm just like, blue, green dude, I don't know, like I just had nothing. I had to kind of read up on it and see who he was, and eventually as the years have rolled on, and seeing appearances from him in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think in the post-credit scene of Age of Ultron, we learned that this is going to be the big bad that everything's been building towards over these 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and 19 movies now with the release of this film, which is just crazy. Especially how good the films have been, considering how many there have been in such a short period of time. I mean, the only real big marquee tentpole blockbuster franchise that's gone as long as this, I'd say, would be the James Bond series, but that doesn't have a direct continuity. You know, you have other film series that go on, or B movies or whatever, that have like 20, 30 entries, but this is like, you know, almost 20 films in now, and to me, I think all of the films are really, really good at the bare minimum. There's a couple that aren't really good, but you know, for the most part, the quality has been really consistent and entertaining and fun and all those kind of things. So I'm a big fan of the Marvel films, to get that out of the way right at the beginning, and I was looking forward to this one. Not hugely. When the trailers came out for this and everyone was going nuts, I was like, yeah, it looks cool. You know, nothing really, oh wow, you know, but I knew that I was going to enjoy it when I sat down to see it, because it's all these characters in one movie. I thought there was a very big chance of it being a complete cluster. Like, there's just so many characters, I think like 70 plus characters, as far as like, you know, main characters from their own respective movies, and now all in this one big movie. Everything's been building towards it. You know, all the paths are converging. Everything is coalescing. You've got the Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got Captain America and Black Widow and Hulk and Black Panther now, and all these characters that got introduced in the last film, Black Panther. And then we have, of course, you know, Thor and Iron Man, Spider-Man, who's only just been recently introduced in the past couple of years as well. There's so many moving parts at play. Then you have Thanos, then you have these new villains, the Black Order, most of whom I thought were fairly flat in the film, apart from the main one, the kind of the theatrical kind of wizardy guy. I thought he was really cool, actually. I liked his character a lot, and you know, he's not in it very much, but he made the most impression of the Black Order characters. I think that's what they're called anyway. Not too versed on the comic book knowledge, but it is what it is. And Thanos, to me, is the star of the show here. This is Thanos' film. It's all about him. We get a lot of backstory, which I wasn't really expecting. I wasn't expecting a film like this to slow down enough to really delve into why he's doing what he's doing, why he's collecting these 6 Infinity Stones to kind of take over the universe and kind of rebuild it in his image, which is basically to kill off half of humanity in the entire universe. Basically a great cull. And he sees it as fair. He sees it as making peace for people. So you get to see that he believes in what he's doing. You also get to see some emotions from him. You get to see a more layered villain than I was really expecting. And Josh Brolin, you know, plays him great, but I was expecting him to be more of just the big badass villain who just takes names and just destroys everything in his path, and that's really all it is, which would be fun to see, but would be fairly, you know, one-dimensional. But there's really a lot to his character, and there's some real interesting moments he goes through. We see a little bit of a flashback, but also kind of more of his history, and especially his relationship with his daughter, Gamora. Now, as many characters that are in Infinity War, there are a few who get kind of the lion's share of the dramatic stuff and kind of an important arc in the film. And I'd say those characters would be Gamora and Thor. Those are the two that really stood out to me, and I was really happy about that, because Thor's one of my favourite characters, if not my favourite character in all the Marvel films. So I was really glad that Thor got a meaningful arc in the film, and at least a meaningful part to play in the story. And that we got to see him kind of sitting with everything that he's gone through over this, you know, this whole journey, but particularly the losses that he suffered in the last film, Thor Ragnarok. I thought that was really cool, that we had that time, and the film does give us that time. It's 2.5 hours long. I think it's the longest Marvel movie to date, and it probably should have been. I know people are going to maybe poke holes at the pacing, or how cluttered the plot is, or things like that, or how, you know, during the film, me watching it, I was thinking, oh yeah, that side of the film, I forgot about those characters who we haven't seen for half an hour because we've been going in chunks. You know, we go from Earth to, you know, well, I guess New York to Wakanda. You know, Wakanda's one of the big locations of the film, but also we go to Titan, which is Thanos' homeworld. We go to other places in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe. We go in another place in the galaxy. So we keep going between these different locations, and you know, there are big stretches where we don't get back to what the other characters are doing, but I thought it was expertly handled. I thought that the pacing of the editing and the scenes were done really well. Perfect? No, you're never going to get a film like this perfect, but I was so blown away by how well they managed these characters from the script, and also the way the Russo brothers put it together, and they've really proved themselves, I think, as directors of big blockbuster action stories like this, with Winter Soldier, which was more of a smaller personal kind of film, but then you had Civil War, and they proved that they could handle it there, and I think with this one they've shown they can as well. So I'm really glad that they did kind of a back-to-back shooting, and we're going to get the fourth one from them, and it's all the kind of, it's the same movie really. They're doing the two-part thing. They're doing the, you know, I don't want to say tried and tested, because you go to Harry Potter, you know, part 1, part 2. This is very much, to me, the part 1 and part 2 finale to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as far as the first 3 phases are concerned. I think phase 4, beyond Avengers 4 next year, is going to be a big shake-up, and a lot of things change in this one too. But I think my main issue with Infinity War is that some things happen in the last like 10 to 15 minutes of the film which should hit harder than they do. But for me, I don't really buy them all that much. And I think that not all is as it seems. And I just really am interested to see how they handle it with the next Avengers film. And I know there are some things that they're going to have to go back on. It's an interesting one to kind of think about and talk about without spoiling anything, but you know, there are casualties along the way, and I just wonder how genuine some of them are. And with a movie like this, and with a franchise like this, where we're rolling forward with announced like 6-7 films, you know, in advance, you kind of know that, you know, not all is as it seems, and so it doesn't really have the power that it should. It doesn't have the weight that it should, which I think is probably the film's problem. But it all depends on where the fourth one goes, because that's very much part 2, and this is very much part 1. And I read someone say that this is the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was like, whoa, 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 calm the fuck down. But then I look at it now, and I kind of see where they're coming from. It's not really a spoiler to say that this is a film where, you know, everything goes to hell, and, you know, you got a long wait until next year to see how the story is going to progress, how it's going to resolve itself. You know, not everything is tied up in a neat little bow at the end of this film, and there are questions, and there is this feeling of dread in the last like 5-10 minutes of this film that was really something. Even though I said some of the weight of it wasn't quite felt in the way I hoped it would be, I think that the feeling was so, it was unlike anything I've felt in a Marvel film before. That last kind of, the last stretch into the credits, and just the feeling of everyone in the cinema, you could feel the energy, and it was really quite interesting. A lot of people clapped, a lot of people didn't, you know. And if you haven't seen the film, there isn't a mid-credits scene, which everyone was waiting for, but there is one right at the end of the credits, which is interesting, and I didn't get at all until I put the pieces together, but it was fun anyway. Overall, I loved the film. I really did. It's probably my top 5 Marvel films. It's so much fun. It does have good emotional moments, even though I'm talking about the weight that doesn't get felt at the end of the film. There are exchanges between characters that I thought were really well done in the film. Again, particularly focusing in on Zoe Saldana as Gamora. I think she really is a star of the show here, as well as Chris Hemsworth as Thor. But also I think Robert Downey Jr. really brings a lot to Tony Stark in this film. And there's a few characters who I would have liked to have seen more of. There are some that I was really overjoyed that we got to see interact with other characters we haven't seen before, so don't want to spoil too much about that. And there's a few things that were maybe in the trailers that definitely weren't in the film at all, which I'm kind of surprised by, and even in the marketing campaigns, and it's like, wow, that character kind of wasn't in the film. You know, it's just a bit interesting, but I don't mind it. It's just I wonder whether it was misdirection or whether they just kind of decided, okay, we'll save that for the fourth one. I don't know. But it's going to have people talking. It's definitely a bold film for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of what they've done with it. But at the same time, I feel like it's not as bold as it appears. You know, I think that in the fourth one that there's going to be some retrospective stuff going on where, you know, things will be reversed. You know, I don't buy it. You know, that's all I think I can kind of say about that. And that may even be spoiling things for some people. I'm sure if you really don't want to get spoiled anything, you wouldn't even watch this anyway. But that's how I feel about it. But I loved it. I thought it was immensely entertaining. And there was one moment in the film which I thought was a really kind of touching thing. And then it kind of segued into one of the best movie moments I've seen in a blockbuster, which was just a really cool hero moment. And the whole cinema just started cheering and applauding, and I just had like a head-to-toe goosebumps. It was awesome. And I said to my friend who I went to see the film with, I said, the one thing I'm most excited about for this film, believe it or not, is just the fact that Alan Silvestri returned to do the score. He did the music for the first Avengers film, and the idea that we'd get to hear that classic Avengers theme in this film. And that moment had that theme, and it just tied it all together for me, and I was like, that was my favourite part of the film, loved it. And also I would say that Drax steals the show, bar none, as far as the humour is concerned. I thought that he was so funny, delivered the two funniest lines of the entire film. I just was in hysterics at one point because it was just so funny. And also, I would say Doctor Strange really stood out to me, because I really liked the Doctor Strange film. I haven't seen it since it came out, but he really stood out to me in this film as a great character, and the things that he did in the film were really cool, and I liked what he did in the film a lot. So there we go, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. If you've seen the film, let me know your thoughts down below, and until then, I'll see you with my spoiler review.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.